It's Thursday, and you know what that means. That means it's time to ignite the dynamite the day after the dynamite. Welcome to the Day After Dynamite. I'm Will Washington. We're back at our regular time because it's not Thanksgiving week. But I'm not alone here. I'm never alone. There's always a guest. But this time we have... Nah, I'm not going to say that because I don't know if that's true. But I was going to say a record-setting guest because this will be your third time on the show, but I'm pretty sure others have hosted the show 3 times. Look, Phil and Reg don't count. Of course, Phil and Reg are always going to be on the show, and I know I've had them on multiple times on the show. But outside of my Grapsody brethren, I believe this is my record setter. 3-time Day After Dynamite guest. It's Miss Cher Delaware.
Hello, and I got a whole day's notice this time.
That's right. It wasn't just like 5 minutes before saying, hey, I need a guest. I will say, I have December's lineup for the show pretty well set in stone. So this isn't, sometimes I'm very behind, sometimes I'm ahead, and sometimes I don't have anybody planned at all. And 2 weeks ago, I did the show by myself. This time, for the month of December, I will say we're pretty well set. I think people are really going to like who we've got lined up on this show for the next 4 weeks. There's 4 Thursdays in December, or 5 Thursdays. I mean, every month has 4, but there's 5 Thursdays in December. So I do have 5 guests lined up for the month. And I think the last one people will find kind of cool, but I'm not going to announce that till the week of. Anyway, how are you doing?
I am doing well. I am glad to be home from lots of wrestling trips.
I know. You just came back from WrestleCade this past weekend. How was that?
It was fun. It was a lot of fun. Saw a heck of a match between Dax and Speedball Mike Bailey. I
bet. I haven't seen it yet, but everybody who has been raving about it nonstop. It just sounds like goddamn hoot. And I wish I could have seen it, but at some point I will, because look, it's December 1st and we at Fightful have kind of reached our point of starting to evaluate our discussions for year-end awards and how that's all going to go. I know there's multiple categories that Dax Harwood is in discussion for. You've seen the list, I'm sure, Cher, and I have definitely seen it. So this is probably the week, considering it's December 1st, and I think that's our cutoff. This was the week that he very much cemented his name in that conversation, at least.
Oh, yes.
So there's a lot that we're going to talk about. Other things we're going to talk about, of course, are the fact that, Day After Dynamite has very much become a Thursday show that looks back at the rumors that went in, or that are coming out of the show, and things that went into it. First off, Caden sends a super chat that says WrestleCade was a hoot and Dax is for the gays.
He was very excited to learn that the gays love him. Very excited.
Good. That's a better response than AJ Styles, then, I suppose. But
he gave Caden a hug when he found out that the gays love him. So
love it. Don't forget, we also want your super chats. Send us your super chats and your humper chats. Super chats you can send by heading on over to youtube.com/Fightful, and during the show, while we're going, you can just shoot us on over a super chat. It's very simple. And by donating a super chat, they help support what we do at Fightful. They help keep the lights on. They help this show continue doing what it does. And as a bonus, your name and all that comes up on the screen. You get your picture there, all that jazz. Humper chats. Also, a very easy way to support the show. Humperchats.com is the way to do that. That's our Streamlabs solution. They don't take as big of a cut of the donations as YouTube does. So we always kind of love the Humper chats, and we got a really big Humper chat. This one is from, and by big, I mean in terms of size. They're all great in their own right. But what I meant was...
We appreciate them all.
Yeah, we appreciate them all. I meant in terms of the amount of text. And this one came from Jason. He said, Jade looked like the superstar she is last night. Do you think the Bow Wow thing will result in an intergender match? I am honestly hoping for a mixed tag with Jade and her man versus Bow Wow and someone. In my dream world, it is Mercedes Moné. I don't know where it's heading. Obviously, they have some kind of outcome planned. This wouldn't be one of those things they're just kind of going week by week on. They know where this is headed. I have no idea. We'll talk a little bit about Jade and how Jade looked last night. This shit was great. It's literally the thumbnail for this episode because there's no way I was going to resist that. I do agree, though, that she looked like a star. I think the segment needed a better ending. But I think I have a hunch as to where everything with that is going. So we'll talk about that when we get to that as we go over Dynamite. But there are some rumors surrounding this week's Dynamite, aren't there? We'll start with the rumors going into it. Because, look, I'm never one to take credit for scoops until they're right. And I will say that... that the Ruby Soho one was mine, and that Ruby Soho returned last night. She had, of course, been gone, and I had initially heard from some people behind the scenes that she was around Dynamite. And my initial thought when I shot that over to Sean was, I mean, she lives in Indiana, so that could mean anything. She could just be visiting friends, all of that. But then I looked at my watch and I was like, but how long does it really take to recover from a broken nose? Because it's been, this week will be 3 months. So my thought at that point was, I think this is a return. That's my gut feeling, is that, especially in her hometown, that if there were ever a place to bring her back, that's it. So my thought was, I think she's coming back, but I'm not certain. So that's the part I don't want to print. So when I gave it to Sean, I was like, I think she just lives in the area, but it has been long enough. So who knows? We're also joined by a guest. I should have been paying attention to the bottom of my screen because...
Will Washington!
There it goes. Why'd you make me wait that long? I look like an idiot. Thank you.
I was letting you finish your story about Ruby Soho, and much like Ruby Soho making her return to AEW last night, I'm making my return to Dad because it's been a few weeks.
It has been.
I was
sick?
COVID sidelined. I had COVID 2 weeks ago, and then last week you were on at midnight, and I was awake. I just didn't feel like getting out of bed to jump on the show. But I'm here, and my pal Cher Delaware is here. How you guys doing?
Doing great.
All right, great talk. I'm out of here, man. Everyone go watch Strong Style on Fightful Overbooked. Right now, it's basically our most popular show over there, so please support it. I have to pay Cher Delaware now. That's very sad that I got to pay people. You're getting paid for that. I don't make any money off that channel. I pay everybody else, so I get.
I have never sent in an invoice for Fightful.
Nobody sends an invoice. I'm just very friendly and just tossing out money. You know? That's how it works.
I love throwing away other people's money.
No, see, you have to do like me, which is forget to send your invoices in for months at a time, and then send one giant invoice because then your payday looks bigger.
I was told the other day by Sean, I have got to make Will start sending in invoices because when Jimmy gets these giant invoices, he's like, what the hell?
I mean, I don't know what Will Washington is making. I got to get on the Will Washington deal. But for people who don't know, I'm exposing the behind the scenes here. We can get paid every 2 weeks or every 2 weeks, essentially. And since I started working at Fightful, I was just like, yeah, just pay me at the end of the month. I'll send in the invoice at the end of the month. I'm paid reasonably. I always deserve a raise, but I'm paid reasonably, and I would always send in mine at the end of the month. And so when I would send in mine, Sean would be like, oh shit, we lost money this month because Jeremy waits until the end of the month to send in his invoice, and his is an outrageous invoice compared to everybody else because
Look, I just forget, and then I'll go the rest of the month. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I haven't sent an invoice since August, so my December invoice is gonna look absurd.
Will, Will's not hard up for money at all. Shit.
Richie Rich over here.
Money. Yeah. He doesn't need money at all.
So yeah, but is when Sean got his first big raise with Fightful, before he even owned a part of the company, I changed his name in my phone to Richie Rich, and that's all I would call him because he's like, I have money now. Like, you would think that he's a freaking millionaire. Some Dax, I am rich. Like Dax was telling everybody at the bar the other night. Like, so now you're the new Richie Rich.
I guess, yeah. I forget sometimes. I still haven't sent in I got to do it. I have to do it today. September, October, November. God, that's 3 months. So, I have to.
Christmas, Jimmy, pay me.
Yeah, Will's gonna break Jimmy on Christmas. Good on you, Will. Good.
Yeah,
on you. I didn't send mine in last month, and Sean like immediately messaged me and is like, "Did you send in an invoice?" I was like, "I filled it out, but I may have like forgot to hit send on my email because that's a thing that I do. It's like I'll fill it out and then just forget to hit send on the email." I was like, "Oh, okay, there you go."
Sean's favorite thing is to joke with me about it. Whenever he tells me something that I need to add to the invoice, he'll be like, "Yeah, make sure to add this to your invoice when you send it in April."
Well, you're getting cooked in the chat that your mic is too loud.
Oh, it's too
loud.
Is it too loud now?
Yeah, people are saying it's too loud.
I think
everybody,
it's
look at all these people. They're mad at you, Will. Look at this. You're very loud.
Very loud.
You're loud. He can I just assumed that was about your mic being too loud. He can hear Mariah Carey in the background. Your mic is so loud. He hears it playing in the background.
Oh, okay. I got you.
No, now you're quiet.
There we go. Yeah, now it's a little bit quieter.
How's that? I don't know how that happened, but I usually keep my mic at about 60, and I looked at it and I'm like, that's at 100. I don't know where that happened.
So you were loud.
Yeah. So is that better, folks?
I just turned the volume up on my iPad so I can hear you now.
So again, let me know if that's better. Thank you. Again, usually keep it at about 60. I don't know where it got shot to 100, but it was at 100, and that's never happened before. So,
who were you yelling at the other night that your mic was so loud?
I don't know.
I was gonna spoil an interview, but I didn't want to do that. I've done that before, and shit.
Was the volume okay on that? Because that
was good.
Okay,
yeah,
I was gonna say
good.
That was where I adjusted the volume. That's the last time I adjusted my volume was on that interview. I have not gone back and watched it. Speaking of which, there's an interview coming up that's been recorded. You guys kind of know because he posted a picture of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I forgot. We interviewed Danny Limelight. That was actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. That'll be up shortly. I've got 2 more interviews in the can, though. Or not in the can, but I suppose because they're not recorded yet, but on the docket, that's the term.
I have some in the can that I have not even sent to my iPad or edited.
Oh my God. You guys are interviewing everybody.
Yeah.
That's just more work for me. I don't like any of this. You guys interview people.
It's not more work for you. I get mine edited. You just post it.
Yeah, but if I gotta like transcribe it and stuff, I don't know.
Need to transcribe me talking about people's gear.
Oh well, that's fine. Will Washington always creates more work for me with the interviews he does. He's like, we got an interview with, I'll say it, you said it, Danny Limelight. It's like, oh, there's a lot of good stories here because you guys do great jobs and do great interviews. I'm like, well, shit, now I got to transcribe it and write stories. So Will's just always creating more work for me.
I mean, I will say, there's one time that I did you the favor, and I haven't done this since, but I transcribed my own interview. You remember Danielle Fishel? When I interviewed Danielle Fishel, I sent you just an entire text transcript. And I was like, just take it. I
hate transcribing.
But are you kidding me? I was so proud of that interview. I went back and watched it like 5 or 6 times. I'm like, dog, I talked to Topanga about pro wrestling.
You transcribed it for it, and I still watch it, which I never do, because if I already have the transcription, or if somebody else like does the transcription and I don't have to listen to an interview, I only listen to interview for work purposes. Like if it's not for work, I'm probably not going to listen to it.
Jeremy, when did you start with Fightful?
2018 is when I started on the wrestling side.
Like when in the year?
Late in the year, September, August.
Okay.
August.
That would be why
SummerSlam.
Sean had me transcribing stuff before
Oh.
you got there. And he
It's the
made me
worst.
transcribe one with that used to be over the NWA.
We don't talk about
Lagana, Dave Lagana.
Oh, okay. We definitely don't talk about
And I had to transcribe this interview, and I was like, I'm never fucking doing that again. Do not ask me to do this.
So here's a quick story. The first interview I transcribed for Sean was with MJF, and MJF is well spoken and everything, but he speaks like he'll use like sort of big words and kind of talk in riddles sometimes. So I transcribed it. This is the first time I really ever transcribed much of anything, and I screwed it up badly. And I still sent it in, but I needed to go back and edit it. But I was going to a Taylor Swift concert that weekend, and sorry, like this MJF transcription was not the most important thing to me when it wasn't going to run for another 2 weeks. And I was like, I'll go back and edit it, and then. But I posted it and everything. So I'm at the Taylor Swift concert, and Sean is messaging me like, hey, the MJF transcription isn't that good. Like, you need to like do it again and everything. I thought I was going to get fired while I'm at the Taylor Swift concert. It was big, huge fear. Like, I'm texting him while I'm at the concert. I finally got to the hotel and we settled everything. He's like, no, I just want to let you know that. I was like, yeah, I was going to go back and edit it. I probably should have communicated that better. I didn't. I'm sorry. So yes, before I officially started, I was supposed to start like full time that Monday. The concert was on Sunday. Before I officially started, I thought I was going to get fired because I did a terrible job transcribing an MJF interview that wasn't out for another 2 weeks. So,
That's very
and he
funny,
nearly
actually.
ruined my Taylor Swift concert experience for me as well.
I mean, I used to be an executive assistant, so I had to transcribe a lot of stuff. And I once had to transcribe a 7-hour-long court,
oh, that sounds awful.
Court martial hearing for the military. So there's like 87 different military men talking, and they all sound the same. And I'm like, I don't know who's talking. I don't know what's going on. But I got paid like $1,000 to transcribe it. So
that's a good deal. Transcribing, like when you don't have video, like the Bollywood boys, like just audio, trying to figure out which one is talking.
Saying what? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
like you got to listen to like even like the Briscoe brothers can be tough too. I've gotten them down a little bit. But Bollywood boys, very difficult if you don't have video. I'm like, where's the verbal cue here of who's speaking and everything? Very transcribing sucks. I mean, I do a lot of it. A shout out to Andrew Thompson, who does a lot of it as well. Anytime anybody who does transcriptions, you understand the pain, and then people yell at you of like, it's not your work that you have done. But I have transcribed some of the Danny Limelight interview. That is very good. Everyone should listen to it when it comes out. Great story about Las Vegas and a New Japan star. I won't spoil anymore, but that was very fun. So yes.
Yeah, check it out. Grapsity interviewed Danny Limelight, and Grapsity is back today with another edition of Ask Grapsity. So if you haven't got your question in, by the way, right after this show is over, head on over to FightfulSelect.com, and we have a brand new edition of Ask Grapsity coming up, and we answer all of your questions. I will make sure not to accidentally hit the end broadcast button too soon, like I did last time, and then... and the problem with that show is, of course, I don't know how to make Fightful Select posts. That's the thing Sean has to do. And so if I
he said he was going to do it, even though he's COVID down.
Yeah. No, what I mean is though, so if I screw up something like that and accidentally hit in broadcast, we have to set up a whole new post for that. And so it's not just a quick, let me just start it back up. No, I have to go through Sean to get that to happen. And it's a nightmare, so I will make sure this time I do not hit in broadcast accidentally like I did last time.
Well, if you do, Will, don't message Sean. Let the man rest. You can message me. I'll help you out and whatever you need as usual.
Yeah,
I have access to everything.
Shout out Sean because that man is not in good shape. He's feeling
better. He's feeling better.
Yeah, I mean better than an hour and a half ago, but he's.
Well, I mean, he legitimately thought he was going to die last night. So he's doing better today compared to that.
That's good.
I already said nice things about him earlier.
He told me he and his wife are both going to die, and I said, your cats are going to eat you. And he said, yes, and then they will also have COVID, and they will also die. And I'm like, well.
I mean, the cats eating you thing is I always thought that was just like a joke people said until that literally
No, it's
happened.
real.
I know that happened to my neighbor, like my neighbor
Yeah.
across the street. So a coroner and animal control showed up around the same time, and apparently she had been dead in the house a couple days, and the cats were just like, "Here's a meal."
Yeah, if you die, your cats will eat you.
Where's my stupid cat is in here somewhere. I'm gonna chastise this thing. I'm like, you better not eat me if I die. She throws up enough. I cannot imagine the poor wife dealing with vomit of me after I die because the cat has eaten me.
Oh yeah, see, no, the thing is, now that the house is on the market, anytime I see neighbors that I'm like, I don't think I want them living here, I go and tell them, I'm like, hey, just so you know, somebody died in this house, and
the cat ate them.
And the cat ate them. Oh my gosh, that would be a way to scare them off. All right, you guys.
Yes.
Talk about that one. Will has to go. Tell Reg to answer my question. Very very important question for the righteous Reg. I didn't send it to Ask Rhapsody. I just DM'd him.
We're gonna answer it on Ask Rhapsody anyway. So
I mean, he can read my DM on Ask Rhapsody if he wants to. But if he does have a chance, tell him to DM me back. He can say no. It's okay. Bye everybody.
Bye, Jeremy. Jeremy Lambert, everybody. All right.
Jeremy.
Ricardo, the ODV, says, "Yo, I just bought my AEW ticket. I'm so stoked. Where are you headed? What city? It looks like
show?
Phoenix. Phoenix actually has had a pretty good advance. I tweeted yesterday about the fact. So there were 2 new event announcements that AEW made last night. I believe one of them was El Paso, Texas, in a really, really tiny venue. That venue only holds max 5,000 people.
Oh,
and it's one of the smallest venues AEW's ever run. It's the El Paso County Arena Center. I don't know, but either way, very small venue in El Paso, Texas, and they also announced Dayton, Ohio, as well. Those are the 2 events they announced. The significance of this, of course, is that there are now 10 venues that AEW has announced for 2023. 10 cities they're running, and of those 10, only one of them is a repeat city. You know, one of the things that people have harped on them a lot for in recent months is that they've been running a lot of the same cities lately.
Yes.
They've been going back to a lot of the same venues, a lot of the same East Coast stuff. And for the first time in a long time, everything in 2023, except for the Kia Forum in Los Angeles, is a new city. They're hitting Seattle, which has also had a really good advance. Seattle's done really well for them. Phoenix has done really well. They're doing a Rampage in Portland, Oregon, that I believe they've also sold everything they put out already, or most of it, to the point of where I don't know why they haven't opened the upper decks yet, but like it's time. So I know Portland's done really well for them. And of course they're running San Francisco, the Revolution, all of that. There's a lot of stuff they're going to be running next year that are all new venues. And, that was part of, Tony Khan talked about that when they signed Jeff Jarrett. He mentioned that signing Jeff Jarrett has a lot to do with his experience in the events department with WWE and just promoting events in general since he's been in the business as long as he's been. And they're entering a lot of new markets. I have a feeling even going into most of March, I think it's all still going to be a lot of new stuff. I heard some rumors of like Oklahoma City, things like that.
When you want established relationships with these venues. So since Jeff has been doing it for so long, he's going to have some sort of relationship with a lot of places. I mean, people might be like, oh, Tony Khan owns the Jaguars or whatever, but they're not like, oh yeah, let's have his wrestling show here, because still AEW is very young, and there's a lot of people that when they think wrestling, they only think WWE. So they're like, what's this company contacting me wanting to have a show? Like
the good news in AEW's secret weapon kind of all along was Rafael Morphy, right? And that Rafael, of course, booked events for WWE for like a decade. And so luckily he had the little Rolodex. He was that's how WWE or AEW was essentially able to get off the ground in a way where no other wrestling company has that quickly, and being able to just book live events like that. They had Rafael, who booked those events for WWE for years. And so he's basically been their secret weapon in terms of having relationships with venues already, having relationships with arenas, and
Right.
being able and I will say that WWE has done a lot in their power to stop some of that stuff. In that
Well,
they
WWE has events coordinators for like sections of the country too.
Mhm.
So like they've got people that are based out of Chicago that just do the Midwest. They've
Oh,
got
yeah.
people, you know, so they, because it's such a more focused thing and those people go to all those events, it's a lot easier for them to be like, well, we're not going to run here if you're going to run them here. And,
Yeah.
you know,
And
it's,
I won't say WWE hasn't necessarily done that, but one of the things that they have done is they have prevented promotion of the events. They have definitely put their foot down on in terms of basically it's if WWE has a event being promoted at an arena and AEW also has that arena booked, that arena cannot, they'll usually get it in writing that that arena cannot begin promoting the AEW
until theirs
event
is over.
until the WWE event is over. I know that recently happened with Quake by the Lake, where, and that was, I think, had a lot to do with why it was called Quake by the Lake. And then I'm not 100% certain on this, but I remember hearing a story about Quake by the Lake, specifically them booking the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
And that they had it booked, but that WWE was running the Target Center, and their event wasn't until, I think, 6 or 7 weeks before Quake by the Lake. And so it was, I think, a provision that that the Target Center could not begin promoting Quake by the Lake until the WWE event was over. And by that point, that's only a 6-week lead time, right? And so it was like, okay, well, let's spice this up. Let's give it some marketing. Let's give it all the jazz we can, so that way Quake by the Lake can sell in a way where it wasn't beforehand.
Right.
So that has a lot to do with that stuff. So either way, it's new territory for them. All of these are new territories, and it is interesting. I'm glad you got your ticket for Phoenix, like you said, because Phoenix was one that, you know, I know people in Phoenix who have been they've been demanding an AEW event for a while, and so it seems the advance is really, really good in the sense that I believe it's higher than a lot of finals have been in some of these repeat arenas. You know, last night I think did like 3,500, and I'm pretty sure they're already close to like 4,500 in with months to go in Phoenix. So
That's crazy.
good stuff for them. And it's interesting to see where it goes and how that does. The big rumor coming out of last night, though, is one William Regal. This rumor has been out for a while that Regal's contract was up soon. The question was how soon. Most people were assuming that it was at least a 1-year deal and that he'd be up around Revolution. And then Dave Meltzer came out with a correction, said it was 3 years. And now the word going around is that it was 9 months and that his deal is up like any day now. And last night was the send-off. That was the write-off for William Regal. William Regal, of course, has a well-known, well-publicized relationship with Triple H. And Regal was, of course, let go from WWE early last year.
When Triple H was off.
Yeah, Triple H was off. I mean, and look, it kind of sounded like at the time that Hunter wasn't coming back. You know, that was some of the talk was that, you know, Hunter got Miltoned, right? Like he was going to be working basically a menial job, basically just to keep him in the company. But at the end of the day, Hunter wasn't in charge of anything. And a lot of Hunter's people were let go. And Regal went and signed with AEW. But again, Regal and Triple H, thick as thieves. Their relationship goes back to WCW.
WCW, yeah.
Yeah, they have been tight for a very long time. That has been Triple H in Regal. That has been his right-hand man for years. And so, you know, there was a lot of thought when Hunter first took over that was a lot of thought when Regal first took when Hunter first took over about like some of Hunter's guys per se. Like what were they going to do? Would they go back? And a lot of guys don't have that recourse, right? Like some guys are signed for years. There was talk of, Malachi Black. It was talked about, he asked for his release. Was he going to try and go back to work for Hunter? There was talk of Buddy Matthews, and some people have asked a lot of questions about Adam Cole. I've seen people ask questions about Swerve, although he's told the story multiple times that he's not a Hunter guy. That actually it was Sean who had his back in NXT. But as far as all of that's concerned, there's always these questions of the people who signed with AEW while Hunter wasn't in charge. Would they go back? Regal seems to be the one that it's like the biggest guarantee, right? Like he was offered, there were rumors that Regal was offered a bigger role backstage in the summertime and that he turned it down. So then that, what did I say that triggered my phone? There's no way I said, okay, Google, and now that triggered it. But, but I'm wondering what I said that sounded like that because my phone just went off. But anyway, so it's being asked in the chat, why can't Regal just be taking some time off? I'll tell you why. WWE is the ones of the belief that Regal's heading back. It's not a matter of just, people in AEW are wondering what's going on, but more so, the last time we saw something like this, where somebody was off of AEW television and then people in WWE were of the belief that they were headed back, was Cody Rhodes. And that turned out to be as accurate as possible. And so this is one of those things where I'm not looking away from the smoke to the fire. Of course, Sean reported that Regal's deal is up this month, or at least he's reported that he's heard from talent that it's up this month. It's very similar to what it sounds like the type of deal Bobby Fish was under. Bobby Fish was only with AEW for 9 months, and he was gone before we knew it. So I don't know what Regal's motivation would be, right? I've heard from a lot of people. I've heard speculation of the idea that, Regal doesn't want to be on the road, that at the end of the day, AEW is a road promotion, and he was comfortable working his position at the office in WWE. And, being the NXT general manager, for example, you don't have to leave Orlando for that. So, but working in AEW, you're on the road. It's a road promotion. That is how the company operates, pretty much. You get your work in that company at tapings. That's how it goes. So, because I see somebody saying AEW is always going to be the consolation prize for talent. I disagree with that. I think there are plenty of people who, one, have actively chosen AEW. We know that. We've seen that happen. Adam Cole actively chose AEW. And
Johnny Gargano probably would have had Triple H not been the one in charge now.
Yeah. So, I mean, it all depends, right? It depends on what you're looking for out of your professional wrestling experience. But otherwise, there's plenty of people who have actively chosen AEW. And so
Stokely Hathaway.
That said, with all that said, I don't necessarily believe the AEW Women's World Champion or former Toni Storm. So there's another one. But I know there's a lot of AEW fans that are upset, that are like, Regal has turned his back on us, that Regal basically used us to keep himself relevant for a little while. Like, first off, I think Regal would have stayed at home if it wasn't for Bryan. Bryan was the one who wanted Regal as a part of storylines. I have to sneeze. Damn it, I couldn't get to my mic mute in time. Oh, anyway.
He wanted to work with him.
Right. And Bryan brought in Regal, and I think what Regal brought to the table for the last 9 months, I think is undeniably great stuff. I think that in hindsight, if I knew that the only feud Blackpool Combat Club was ever going to get was Jericho Appreciation Society, I probably would have said, hey, could you probably end this at Blood and Guts? But, which was back in June. But, but otherwise, I think the content we got out of Blood and Guts, or not Blood and Guts, of the Blackpool Combat Club, thinking about the guys that the Blackpool Combat Club has gotten over, thinking about who the hell was Wheeler Yuta prior to the Blackpool Combat Club? He was just the guy who hung out with best friends that my wife thought was hot. But now he's...
I forgot about that.
But all of a sudden now, Wheeler Yuta is somebody who matters, who's had matches that I think you could put up against some of the best matches this year. You could put Yuta and Moxley in that absolute bloodbath against most of the matches I've enjoyed this year. And the thing is, it holds up against a lot of them. There was no way in hell Wheeler Yuta was getting that opportunity without the existence of the Blackpool Combat Club. And the Blackpool Combat Club doesn't exist without Regal. And so I think... it's tough. I look back. I grew up in the 90s, of course. So like Monday Night War is a lot of my foundational.
Right.
It's a lot of my foundation in watching pro wrestling. And thinking about that time period, and just even before the Monday Night War, I grew up. When I was born, there were two major wrestling companies. Right. I was born in '87. And I used to collect, when I was a little kid, WCW trading cards in like 91, 92. I have all these Sting trading cards, all this stuff.
The bright ass orange and green and yellow. Yeah, I had those.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is, I grew up with all that stuff, right? So like, and also cards says, why didn't Owen sign? And everyone knew Renee was going to AEW. Why didn't Owen sign? What did Owens do at WrestleMania this year? If you were never mind. I'm not going to get into that, but really give that some thought as far as if you were offered the opportunity to work with Stone Cold Steve Austin in his return match. Anyway, point being.
You know what? He re-signed. He's got to do some stuff. He's got to stay at home when he wanted to go to his kids' stuff. Sami Zayn re-signed, and look where he is. The point of all of that is simply that it's not a one-size-fits-all for anybody. That there's just the blanket statement that it's a consolation prize for wrestlers is not true. It's just not. And you can absolutely see that across the board. It's dependent on what's the best environment for that person and what they feel is the best opportunity for them and what they feel is going to be the best opportunity. Bryan Danielson is the greatest wrestler active today. I won't get into a Bret Hart argument with you. And
I think Bret Hart is. I think Bryan Danielson is the greatest of all time. He's the GOAT.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if we're talking Bret,
I got attacked.
I know. If we're talking Bret and Shawn, I'll say Bret's better. But I think Bryan is the GOAT.
I think yes. And he chose to not stay with WWE, to go to AEW. Like, you going to say that he chose a consolation prize?
Again, but either way, not an argument I even need to have. Because at the end of the day, I'm saying here that growing up in the 90s, a lot of people used to jump back and forth. It's really... weird to look at like somebody like Rick Rude, right? That like Rick Rude, it really just depends on what time you started watching Rick Rude, because some people know him as a WWF guy because of his run in the 80s. But then you look at like him in WCW and the matches with Steamboat. That's what I know Ricky. That's what I know Rick Rude for. And then of course he returned to the WWF, but then returned to WCW. He's a guy who jumped back and forth. Jeff Jarrett's another guy who jumped back and forth throughout. He was in WWF. He was introduced to WWF in the 90s, went to WCW, went back to WWF, and then went back to WCW and was with it till it closed. That's just the way.
That's why it was crazy when Sting came to WWE. however many years ago that was, because he always felt like he was going to be the only one.
He was the only holdout.
Back
right.
and forth, like that's what we grew up with, is people, oh, this week they're on this show. Oh, never mind, they're here now.
Yeah, and that's just something I was used to, and that's why the idea, and I still feel like because it hasn't happened enough right now, we haven't seen lots of guys jump back and forth yet, that it's still kind of a fresh idea, that it is a big deal. It's a big discussion when somebody has gone to the other side, and people are then literally it happened both ways, right? Bryan going to AEW had people last year talking about, oh, well, people are jumping ship. WWE is a sinking ship. It's over for them, right?
In the mud.
And then earlier this year, Cody jumps from AEW, and the talk was, oh my God, that's the first sign the rats are getting off the ship. AEW is over. Guys, I truly believe that the mark of a successful and I will say healthy wrestling industry is when guys are able to do that. That that guys are able to get good paydays, wrestle in front of good crowds, and get on TV in front of good audiences and have multiple opportunities to do so. That is the best thing you could ask for in the wrestling industry. Yes. And, whoever heads in what direction, I think that it's a healthy sign for a wrestling industry. I think, as far as Regal's concerned, that, look, AEW fans, you can't be upset. Maybe you can be upset in the sense that, I wanted more Regal. That's fine. But if you look back at the last 9 months of what Regal brought to the table and aren't looking at it as this was a really impressive 9 months in the sense of getting people over, in terms of, again, getting guys like Wheeler Yuta over, in terms of giving MJF one of the best promos of his career. And taking it all the way to the very end. Like, if this is the last thing Regal had to do, he sold like a freaking champ for MJF.
Yeah.
And
it was so good. I wasn't expecting that at that moment. I thought that it would happen later, and then him doing it, and then turning the email into his own thing. It was so good. So good. Even though my kids kept saying, why is he yelling into the microphone? And I'm like, that's just what he does.
Yes.
I think it's important for people to remember, too. We all feel like William Regal is 75 years old. He is 2 years older than Chris Jericho. 2 years older than Chris Jericho. He's just been around for so long, and he's looked the same for so long. It feels like he's always been that old.
My biggest disappointment, and my real only disappointment through it all, shout out Mikey Ruckus for the new Regal theme that he debuted last night. But my biggest disappointment is simply that Regal never got to use his WCW theme in AEW, and I was so convinced he would at some point, and because it's public domain. And so that would have been kind of an easy one to have him come out to, and he never did. And I would have loved to have heard that. ShotKid29 says, I guess it is too much to ask people to just be happy for people's success, and it all has to devolve into tribalism. Look, I've even said in the past, because this is my issue with tribalism as it exists. I think, because I saw somebody, I see the whole the Just Enjoy Wrestling side of things, and I will say, I'm not on that side at all. In that requires me to say that everything is for me, and it's not. And I think it's really important to recognize that there are multiple different flavors of pro wrestling, and not all of it's going to be for you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Simply choose what's for you, and if you're not required to like anything, but you also don't have to necessarily. I think where tribalism becomes a problem is it's like, I tweeted this once before, but I was like, I like this is okay. I don't like this is okay. I think where it starts to get muddy is when you have to go, well, you suck because you like this.
Yeah.
That's the issue, is that now it's
like whatever you like, don't like whatever you like. Who cares what somebody else likes? or doesn't like.
That
doesn't affect you. I mean, deathmatch wrestling is not for me. Mm-hmm. It makes me a nervous wreck. As a parent, I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, I have been to one deathmatch live. Too much for me. Can't do it. But there's people that love it. Good for them. There are wrestlers who cater to that for them and everything. That's just not my thing. But I don't care that other people don't like it or do like it.
No,
like,
and it's kind of that same deal where, like, I haven't liked an Edge match since he's been back.
Which is fair.
But I've had very little to say about that, and I've had very little to say about people who like those matches, because I get that they're just not for me.
Right.
But I know that they're for somebody, and so, hey, enjoy. That's it. And that's the thing, is I might even express that those matches aren't for me, but I'm not going to knock anybody who enjoys them. Last night, I tweeted about the Elite versus Death Triangle. Those matches are for me. That's the kind of shit I like, right? And I swear a whole lot of faceless accounts had everything to say to me about liking that match, or liking those matches in general. So, well, I have a little bit to say there. I want to read a couple more super chats. Hunter Tillman says, "What's up, everyone? What did you think of last night's Dynamite? I thought it was an incredible show, and are the rumors true about Regal?" I mean, look, at the moment, people believe they're true. As far as whether or not they are,
we'll see.
Yeah. And ShotKid29 says, "To clarify, I vastly prefer AEW to WWE and would prefer to see him still in AEW. At the end of the day, though, it is his life, and I'd rather people be happy than feed my own fandom." I mean, like I said, I think it is okay to feel like you would rather have him here. Of course you would. You know, it's like somebody breaking up with you and going off to somebody else. Of course you're not going to be happy about that.
Sometimes you might.
It's more so it's more so when you have to stop and go, well, now my entire relationship was a waste of time. And maybe you'll feel that way too, but just recognize that you're denying yourself some good memories, and in this case, good content, because I don't think the entire Regal run in AEW was a waste of time. But I'm seeing a lot of people saying, man, Tony made a mistake hiring any Hunter guys. Don't hire any ex-Hunter guys. I think that's a mistake. I think that you hire who's going to give you the best content for your show. And Regal gave him the best content for his show.
Well, and I think that being mad at someone because of where they choose to work is really weird too. Like, you're not the one that's working there. You're not the one that has to do it and everything. So whatever is going to make them happy or get them the most money, because some of them, that's all that they care about, and good for them too. Like, why would I don't want someone telling me where I have to work. So like, why would I want to do that to somebody else?
True.
I do not work for Fightful, by the way.
No, because she doesn't send in invoices. So
you don't work here either.
Apparently I don't. No, like I said, I'm just stacking the invoices. It's like when you cash in your chips. Anyway, I promise I will send in an invoice this month. I know that when he looks at those and is like, what the fuck? And it's like, look, you're not...
He's not going to be happy.
Yeah. So, Jon Moxley had a segment with, he made his way out. And the thing is, people were suspecting last week with Moxley's language, where he said, Regal, I want you to leave and never come back. Like, people were suspecting that seems like very deliberate, very permanent language. And so Moxley's promo, I wasn't sure where it was going. I didn't know at all.
Either.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where this was going. He comes out and he calls out anybody who wants to challenge Moxley as the guy around here, the one constant, the toughest man in AEW. And Hangman Adam Page's music hit. And I have to say, I haven't marked like that in a minute. It like just watching TV, but I got a little excited because I thought, oh shit, I wasn't even thinking about Hangman right now.
I wasn't either.
Yeah, I had maybe asked myself, I think it was, so I have my comfort watches. We all have our comfort watches. Yours is Seinfeld. Mine,
as everyone knows.
yes. I mean, I've sat and watched Seinfeld with you. I know that it's Seinfeld. That said, my comfort watch is the Young Bucks versus Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page. And I probably watched that match like 1,000 times at this stage.
When was that?
That Revolution 2020. I literally just threw it on, was it yesterday? Tuesday. I threw it on Tuesday afternoon as I was working on some stuff around the house. And I'm like, what do I want on in the background? And I'm going through and I'm like, oh, Revolution 2020. And I threw that match on, watched the whole thing. And when I watched it on Tuesday, my brain went, man, I can't wait for the day that finally everybody's back, because it seems like every time somebody comes back, there's somebody else out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't wait for the day that we've got the Elite back and we got Hangman back and like everything could be cool. I don't know when that day is going to be though. Literally the next
Tomorrow.
day. Literally the next day, Hangman's back. Oh, and shout out Val. Hi, Val. Good to see Val in the chat.
Hi, Val.
Yes. And
I talked to Hangman this past
yeah,
weekend.
you were going to say.
And he said, I'll see you soon. And I'm like, didn't expect it to be Wednesday. I mean, you never know. Anybody that has ever spoken to Hangman, he is one of the funniest people I've ever met, because he just lies. Like, he just lies about everything. So he told me he has made his own clothes since he was a child, that he makes his jeans. One time he told me and Sean that he wrote his theme song when he was 8, and that he taught music when he was a teacher, and that he taught math. He just makes stuff up. Like,
That's so great.
He didn't know how old he was, but he was trying to tell us that he taught math. I said, what year were you born? And he couldn't do math on how old he was. He's a very funny guy, and he told me he was going to be back, and I was like, okay. Like,
but here he was. I didn't see that coming at all. I was really excited. And there's some really dumbass discourse online about whether or not there should have been a backstory on this. I'm just going to simply challenge Meltzer's argument to this, that never in wrestling history, at least that I can recall, and show me otherwise, but I've never seen a surprise return where you were also shown the context of the return. Otherwise, it's not a surprise.
and it's not like it was that long ago.
Yeah, and they mentioned it on commentary. As a matter of fact, before I got online today, I was really happy with all the commentary stuff. I thought that the Excalibur basically, as soon as Hangman hit the stage, Excalibur starts explaining in great detail that Hangman was in town to get cleared, but last I checked, he wasn't cleared.
Yes.
And then Taz starts going in on the fact that, Hangman has a bone to pick with Moxley being the man who concussed him, and that was the last time we saw Hangman Adam Page. And again, we're only talking about stuff from like 4 weeks ago. This isn't ancient history. And so
it's something I remember, and I don't remember anything. So if I remember it, I mean,
yeah, I think it's fair to say that that's not one that necessarily needed a whole lot of context in the moment. You know, I wouldn't have seen John Cena return to the 2008 Royal Rumble and go, well, wait, before he comes into the ring, you should show us him tearing his pec 5 months ago. Which, of course, they would have never done that. And they didn't do it the next night on Raw. That wasn't referenced again until the build-up to No Way Out. But anyway, my point here is that that's not necessarily a thing you have to do in every moment, because sometimes it makes perfect sense, right? And
and I don't think that it was needed there either, just because it wasn't like he came out and interrupted him. Like he said, he wanted whoever to come out. So even if there wasn't anything, he could have still, after being gone, been like, no, I'm the baddest or whatever, like when he came out. And the 2 lines that Mox delivered, perfect for it. They don't have to come out there and argue. Like, I thought it was great.
His straight up line of, do you remember what happened last time we were in a ring together? That's it. That was it. They brawled. Can I tell you something, by the way? I don't know why. This is just a weird me thing, I
boy.
guess. But during the brawl, Moxley trips on the stage.
Yes.
For whatever reason, that happening to Moxley not only made sense, but kind of seemed a little more badass that it happened, and he just was like, nah, I'm gonna keep fighting. Because, like, as MJF pointed out a few weeks ago, Moxley's got 2 left feet. Moxley does not really move gracefully. Moxley is not somebody who is...
He's kind of like a bull in a china shop.
Yeah, exactly. And so, like, Moxley falling off the stage trying to, like, brawl with Hangman actually kind of added a kind of a sense of legitimacy to it.
And it was funny.
And it was funny. And then he just, like, kept going.
Yeah.
It was great. I actually liked everything about this. I was like, you know what? I'm in on this. I am perfectly in on Moxley and Hangman and moving forward with that as the
and it
next
not
program.
being for a title.
Mm-hmm.
Very excited for that. My toxic trait is that I love watching wrestlers fall down. So like that, the one with Mandy and Dana Brooke when they were coming down at Mania when the ramp was wet. That one. FTR when they tripped over the sign coming out on, I think it was a SmackDown maybe.
Oh, you know what yep, I remember that actually. There's a couple that you'll enjoy. If you can find the unedited version, because I know the network fixed it. Goldberg's entrance at SummerSlam 2003. That's a good one. Because he's like doing his kicks to the pyro and then he just like falls over. But I know that on the network version, or on Peacock now, it just cuts to the crowd and then cuts back to Goldberg. And they definitely fixed that. There's another one where I want to say it was on a SmackDown in '99. It was a Survivor Series style match. It was DX versus Shane McMahon, Kane, Stone Cold, and The Rock, which sounds like an
does that sound like a 5-star classic there.
Now, that just sounds like an insane thing for just like a random SmackDown, but that was just a random SmackDown. But I remember every member of DX at the time like carried water bottles. Hunter's pouring his in his hair. Road Dogg's doing his spit. Billy Gunn's got one. X-Pac's the only one without one, and X-Pac slips on water during his entrance. And he recovers very quickly, but it's like a really quick, they're walking, and then X-Pac slips. And
I love it. They're just they're in such a mode when they go out, and then to watch them fall down, it's just hilarious. Like, I don't know. I'm evil. I don't know.
No, this is great. That is an amazing trait, and I love that about you. So, speaking of things we loved, Dax Harwood going one-on-one with Bryan Danielson. I knew I was going to love it. I didn't know how much I was going to love it. But Bryan Danielson and Dax Harwood delivered, baby. That was great stuff. I had a lot of fun with Dax Harwood and Bryan Danielson. Dax Harwood is in a place where he seems to have something to prove. And granted, my only argument toward giving him a Wrestler of the Year nod is simply that on his own, he's only won one match, and it was against...
and it was against his partner?
Yeah, it was against Cash Wheeler. But the... I hope you see that message from Val there, by the way, because that's great. You have to... Yeah. So anyway... no, I thought this was just excellent pro wrestling here. I thought that Bryan Danielson, of course, is a smart, methodical wrestler. This didn't come off like, and it just came off like wrestling. It came off like two guys competitively having deep exchanges. All of this was just very good stuff.
So
Dax
good.
Harwood is an excellent professional wrestler. Bryan Danielson's the best in the world. These guys made such great use of their TV time. The back and forths all look really good. And
just beating the shit
out of the
shit
out of each other. Like at the end of the day, like you can tell how much joy Bryan Danielson gets out of the redder his chest being. Like, you saw that tweet last week of him talking about bloody Jericho's chest, and Bryan Danielson's just looking at that like, give me some of that, because it's like, why can't my chest bleed? But Bryan and Bryan got himself a little red chested here.
He did.
This was excellent. I have no complaints about this match. Danielson at the end of it walks away with the victory. He taps out Dax Harwood. Dax Harwood motions like when Bryan goes for the handshake, like he's not going to do it, and it comes over and gives him a hug. It's great stuff. Loved everything about this. How did this match make you feel?
I was so excited for this. As you saw yesterday, I was very much considering driving to Indy for the show. And then I was like, I have to get my kids out of school early. So I decided against it. But this past weekend, I did not even know that it was going to happen because I was driving. So when it was announced, I didn't even know that it was going to happen. And then somebody had sent me a thing, but it was a tweet from Tom's Customs. So I thought it wasn't real, but he had tweeted it like it wasn't real, even though it was.
Right.
And so when I saw
shout out
Dax
Tom,
Saturday,
by the way. I love Tom for that stuff.
He's great. When I saw Dax Saturday, he was like, "Are you gonna come watch that?" And I was like, "Wait, what?" Like, I was so excited, and I kept telling him like, "Oh my gosh," because I was just so excited for it. And he also said that he thinks Bryan Danielson is the greatest current professional wrestler. And that's a big compliment coming from him. I was so excited about it. It was such a good match. That's the type of wrestling that I like. Just beating the shit out of each other without light tubes. so it was just so good. And you could tell how much respect they had for each other doing it. And Dax told me they'd been pushing for that match for a long time. And he said, I went to cut my promo, and they said, hey, you're going to challenge Bryan for a match next week. And he said, okay, why? And they said, come up with something. So he was like, so I was like, trying to figure out why I was challenging him or whatever. And it was just so good. Such a good match. Those two could have a match every week on the show, and I would be excited to watch it. Speaking of my title down here, Cash Wheeler aficionado, I got a text from one Jonathan Alba as the match was getting ready to start that said, did Cash forget he was going to be on TV? Why is he in sweatpants? And he also only brought out 2 belts. So maybe he didn't know he was going to be on TV because he came out with 2 of the belts in sweatpants. Maybe he was just hanging out in Indianapolis. Let that man have a break.
Or he was trying to pop Cher Delaware. Who knows? So the this was great though. And we then saw, and I'm trying to make sure I don't skip anything in between. See, we had a promo from Ricky Starks. He's ready to win the world title, but he also wants the Dynamite Diamond ring. That's interesting. I have no idea where that's going now, because they're alluding to MJF having to defend 2 things on Dynamite. So
interesting.
I have no idea where that's heading. We had Moxley and Hangman just kept brawling. And again, it's good stuff. I was happy with all that. I liked that this was the setup to have an explanation for Moxley being out of the building, because obviously some other stuff was going to have to go down later that you would want to ask yourself, where's Moxley? And I thought, perfectly reasonable explanation here, right? Moxley is nowhere to be found here because he got ejected from the building alongside Hangman for brawling. Good stuff. we didn't see, because we got the announcement earlier in the day. Now we knew this because AEW had already added him to the roster page, but I'm referring to AR Fox officially getting the announcement for being we officially got the announcement for being the all elite. Sorry, got distracted for a second. And so yeah, got the announcement for being all elite. We knew that a couple weeks ago when he tagged with our guys.
Yeah.
Oh, they're saying I'm robotic. Have I gone
Nope, you're
robo?
good now.
You can just tell. Okay, I'm
You're
good
good
now.
now.
Are you certain?
Yes.
I'm good. Okay, cool. Let me just. There we go. Anyway, just had to make sure everything is all right. So, continuing on. AR Fox is all elite. And to celebrate, he gets a shot at the TNT champion, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe's first appearance since Full Gear. This was fast, it was quick, but I enjoyed it. And Joe, he did his walk-off spot, but AR Fox had a great counter for that.
Things.
Yeah, this was great stuff. Again, not a very long match, but at the end of the day, Samoa Joe gets the victory over AR Fox. I thought it was a great showing for AR Fox, and I just think he's a great addition to have here. I know I saw a lot of people kind of downing on it, saying, you have too many wrestlers, blah, blah, blah. AR Fox is not one of those guys you would say that to, for a number of reasons. AR Fox is one of those guys that, hey, you want to do have a quick TV title defense that is... that you can have guys look good. I'm sorry, my phone keeps vibrating. I'm just going to move this over here because I am seemingly popular right now. But
you're always popular.
But the other day, that's not a thing that I ever think I am, but the other day you had messaged me. And at the same time, somebody else had messaged me. And I opened my conversations to see how many I was juggling and realized at that moment in time, I kid you not, I was juggling 14 conversations at once. And because my wife turns to me and she said, your phone keeps vibrating. How many people are you talking to right now? And I opened my phone up and I started counting. And I thought, what the hell? Am I really talking to 14 people right now? That's insanity.
I'm never talking to that many people. I don't even have that many friends.
So... folks, those who know me, and that includes you, if you're ever messaging me and I fail to respond, a lot of times it's because I got pulled in another direction, and so I'm doing this and then got pulled in this one and forgot to go to the one 3 directions ago. So
I always know that you will respond eventually. It just may be a few days.
But I'll always address the last thing you said.
You will.
Before I, because sometimes I'll open up the conversation and be like, hey, I want to message her and just see how she's doing. And then I see like, oh shit, I didn't respond to this thing from 3 days ago. Let me respond to this first before I ask the thing that I'm going to ask.
You gave me advice after your nap the other day.
I did. I took a nap and then I was like, oh shit, I totally left her hanging. Like she literally brought up something. I went and took a nap. And then
you gave good advice, though.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I hope
Sean
it was.
Said Will is very introspective. I am not. That's what he said. I told you. I told you what his advice is. So.
Yeah. After the match, though, Joe gets on the mic and he's interrupted by Wardlow, who reminds us that he's living in Wardlow's world and crouching against Wardlow. Joe
Robot.
I'm just gonna refresh. Give me a moment.
I'm losing an AirPod. You can see my wrestlers behind me. We got China. We got more China.
There we are. I'm back.
There we are.
Hopefully not robotic this time.
Nope, you're good.
Yeah, well, I should probably not do the show with 200 tabs open. So, anyway, so later on we get Actually, let's talk about the big thing of the show. William Regal, MJF. We see that there's very clearly something hidden under a sheet in the ring.
Yeah.
It very much looks like a championship belt. I wasn't sure what they were going to do here. But yes, we knew we were going to get a new championship belt. It was just a matter of when. MJF makes his way out, and he cuts a promo on literally everything. He explains everything. That Regal saw a moment of weakness in MJF when the Firm attacked him. And after that, Regal reached out to him, sent him an email, and told him that he could turn him into the greatest villain in pro wrestling with his help, because Regal is known as the villain. And MJF, basically, first he trashes the belt. He says that he's done with that belt because it reminds him of all of the others, and that he's going to introduce something that's classy, that's much better. And it was literally just the same belt with the
Burberry strap.
With the Burberry strap that you could barely see, so it was really just the same belt.
You know what I really wanted? Him to say all that and then take it off and it be a freaking spinner belt like John Cena's. Gotta class up this joint and it be a spinner belt. That would have been hilarious.
So the fun thing about this is that it reminded me so much of like Miz and Edge in a sense, where do you remember when Edge was like, I'm going to introduce a new belt that's rated R, and you kind of get and you get excited about it because you're like, ooh, what change is Edge going to make? And then it's the same belt just with like the rated R logo, and you're like, oh, boo. You barely did anything, and you talked it up like you were going to change everything. Same with, and I talked about Miz, right? Where Miz talked about how he's going to introduce this brand new belt. He's going to change everything. And then it literally was the same belt with the W turned upside down. Kind of a good troll move.
Yes.
In this sense, it was the same thing of MJF is talking about how much of a change this is about to be, and that he's trashing the old belt. It reminds him too much of the old wrestlers. Out with the old, in with the new. And it's literally the exact same belt with the strap modified. And again, I don't even mind brown straps in wrestling. I actually think that the big gold belt looked at its best when it had a brown strap. So initially I just see it with a brown strap and I'm like, oh, that's the same thing. But then you kind of see faintly the Burberry design in it. Okay, sure. MJF gets Burberry strap belt. And you know who was excellent in this segment? Through everything MJF had to say, through the belt unveiling, trashing the old belt, all of that.
Excalibur.
I was going to say Tony Schiavone. I thought Tony Schiavone.
I just thought Excalibur's emotions.
Mm-hmm.
He felt betrayed by William Regal. He needed to run down.
Oh yeah.
After Regal got attacked and be like, I'm sorry, I love you.
Orion Ben said, credit to Excalibur's roller coaster of emotions. And he's right. And
Tony Schiavone was good though. He was getting like legitimately pissed off, and it was funny. Yeah.
We had another one from Caden that said that if Excalibur and Regal never fucked, then it's all a waste. I mean, we did build that up for quite some time, and it never happened.
Jeremy is going to be very disappointed.
Orion Ben also says, AR Fox, the Trailblazer, the walk-off spot was excellent. Again, I love AR Fox. I think having that guy backstage, having his presence around, knowing who he's trained. I mean, guys, he trained Austin Theory. Like, there's a lot of guys in the industry that owe their careers to AR Fox. Yes. And just having that resource behind the scenes, whether it's in an official coaching role, whether it's just as a mentor, whether it's to have access to his students, anything it is, that I see no downsides to having AR Fox on your contract.
And I like that commentary does also say he is a veteran in this business. They're not just like, oh, there's this new guy who's never done anything. They made sure to let people know, if you haven't heard of AR Fox before, he's been around for a long time, which I appreciated a lot.
Yeah. But so I get what people didn't like about this segment. I fully do. I can even say that some of it resonates with me, in that getting MJF to this point of his was a complete roller coaster that had some twists and turns and some wacky detours, because the firm is like useless at this point, right?
Yeah, that whole thing was
none of it makes any sense. None of it made any sense. MJF basically just wrote it off as, I respect you guys for attacking me, and you guys aren't worth my time because I'm not chasing anybody because I'm the world champ now, so whatever. And it was like, okay, so we're just done with all that, I guess. That was beyond us. I also felt like MJF talked in circles a little bit here. Yes. He was going on a long, long time. I was almost looking at my watch thinking, I know what they're doing here. Wherever this segment is going has to stretch to the top of the hour, and there's still like 10 minutes to go till the top of the hour. And so MJF was definitely just talking a lot, and he was stretching this segment as long as it could go. And again, there was just the whole storyline comes off convoluted in so many different ways. I get all of that, and I feel all of that, and I agree with all of that. But I will say, the payoff got me. And I'll tell you why the payoff got me. I'm a sucker for callbacks. Huge sucker for callbacks. You may recall, a month ago, MJF, William Regal, had a very emotional segment in which William Regal put MJF in a little bit of a diaper bag. And after MJF went off about how Regal screwed him over, and Regal turned his back to MJF and asked him to strike him. And MJF never did. And Regal was just so confident because he didn't think MJF truly had it in him to do it. And the way this segment ended was a complete callback to that, in which MJF struck Regal from behind with the brass knuckles in exactly the fashion that Regal dared him to do it a month ago, and then read the email and read it all back to him in his way of dismissing William Regal. I thought all of that was great stuff and a great, great callback. That, I think, was the part that brought it all together for me. That honestly, if I could just literally forget all the firm stuff over the last month and just focus on the idea of what MJF did with Regal a month ago and where it ended up here, that was great shit. Regal was the best part here. Regal sold like complete death. Regal laying on the ground there like he freaking died. And I'll say this segment had a couple of successes. One was the crowd. In that, holy shit, I didn't think MJF could get himself booed again. And he did. Sure enough, crowd was booing through this. They're chanting, shut the fuck up. They're booing MJF. They're booing the stuff he says. He got himself on the negative side of the AEW fan base again. Hey, that's cool. The fans were not happy with what he did to Regal. They booed all of that. They even chanted Regal on the way out as Regal is being stretchered out. I appreciate MJF's suit, by the way. The jacket that had the Better Than You text on it.
Loved it.
That was cool.
Like the Conor McGregor. Yeah, loved that.
Yeah. I also liked Bryan here.
With the
And
one shoe coming out,
yes.
he was definitely on wiki feet by the end of the night, but that was excellent.
And the thing I appreciated more than anything else was AEW not giving into some of their rushing instincts, where sometimes things can they can move on too quickly from a devastating thing, where it's like, hey, we just had this person get their leg destroyed. Now let's throw it to the back with Renee. And I appreciated that they held on to this as long as they could. Regal selling on the ground, and them getting him onto the stretcher. Bryan shouting at the doctors, hurry up. Why aren't you guys moving any faster? The medical staff responding like, hey, we can't. We have to take our time, Bryan. And they get him out of the ring. They kind of didn't quite get the neck brace right. Whatever. I'm okay with that. And they go to commercial break. We come back, and they're still helping Regal out. And I thought, thank goodness you guys took your time with this. I would have been so annoyed had you just moved on very quickly. And I like that even commentary was stuck on this idea that, you know, we have to move on because we still have the rest of the show, but we're not exactly having an easy time doing so.
Yes.
So, yeah, I thought MJF went on a little bit too long. He laid it on a little too thick. And none of the stuff that got us here made really any sense. But I thought he followed up on Regal really well. And I thought that turn was good stuff.
And there's always going to be things that you try that don't work. I mean, and I think that they saw that the firm thing was not working. It was very weird.
I don't know. You know, did you watch Stokely on the sessions this week?
I did. I'd already seen it, but yes. Yeah. Stokely's great. In the little segment Stokely had last night.
Yeah,
hilarious.
So, and that came up next. It's because I mentioned all that to say that, you know, obviously with CM Punk around, they had a very different plan. That would have none of this was going to involve Regal when CM Punk was still around. And Stokely talked about the fact that that Punk wanted to work with him, and that it was going to be a lot of firm with CM Punk kind of stuff and firm against CM Punk. And then once it became MJF versus the Blackpool Combat Club, they basically just abandoned all the firm stuff. So,
but I think that it was a good idea to abandon it because it just wasn't. I think Stokely with Ethan Page, great. Those two are great together. Like they're both, they both are good talkers too. But like having those two together is good. I love Lee, having Lee, you know. But it never felt like MJF needed this group.
No.
Like the whole thing, you were at All Out. It felt very convoluted when it happened. And I mean, it was just odd. Everybody knew who it was going to be. Like, it's not like we're dumb. We all knew who it was going to be at the end.
I love how everybody, as soon as the masked person took the chip, everybody's like, I know that ass anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, this is why there was a TikTok earlier today dedicated to the asses of MJF and Cash Wheeler. Like, I mean, everybody knew. By the way he walks and everything, everybody knew it was MJF. But it was just convoluted, and it felt weird because, like, Max had a group already. Yes. You know, and obviously he and Wardlow, whatever, but, like, he's done that. So it felt weird having like another group with him, I guess. Max doesn't need the other people around. He doesn't like people, so he shouldn't have people around him. Like,
and it is weird because like the Pinnacle's kind of still going, like in the sense of last time we saw them
without him.
Yeah, like we just saw Shawn Spears with FTR and Wardlow.
Yeah.
They all seem to be just fine. And so what came next? So yeah, so we saw Ricky Starks versus Ari Daivari, the squash. But yeah, we did see Stokely and Ethan Page make their way out. Matt Hardy comes out and interrupts. Y'all are killing me. Thank you. So.
It is me again. Let's see. What do we got over here? We got the Hardys and Lita.
And this only happens on Day After Dynamite. And considering I do After the Week with Denise every week, same setup, doesn't happen. Also, I'm literally about to do Ask Rhapsody. Guarantee it doesn't happen. Rayo says, I feel like Punk's absence in MJF's story right now is being understated. Everything had to get thrown out the window. That's very true.
That is true.
I don't disagree with that whatsoever. I think that MJF has been kind of sidelined by a lot of things that were out of his control. And that.
But I also think it's been 3 months and you've had time to figure it out.
Yeah. So I have started, for a long time, I watched everything. I haven't watched Dark in a long time, but I will say I have been watching Dark recently, and there's a Fightful Select report Sean just put up about some of the storylines happening on Dark.
Oh, I just read that actually.
Yes. And
so subscribe to Fightful Select.
FightfulSelect.com. Plus, that's how you'll get to watch Ask Rhapsody in just a little bit. But I just read that story. And the cool thing about that story is I have felt for the last few weeks like, hey, Dark has some stuff going for it right now. Which is the thing I've wanted out of Dark is like, when I felt like when Dark first started, it was stuff I wanted to watch. And then it just became like the series of squash matches that I didn't really care about. And I thought that like being on YouTube's not a bad thing. The part that gets me is that I just want some stories that I care about.
Right.
And sorry, I just got messaged about. That's odd. That's very interesting. I don't know if that's true, and I'm not going to report that here yet. But it was something Alvarez reported. You could probably find it on Twitter. But it was about an out clause that apparently Regal had in his contract that, again, you can go ahead and read that. But that seems to be going around right now. Yeah, I have actually been enjoying Dark recently. I've been throwing it on Mondays and Tuesdays, Dark Elevation and Dark, and yeah, I'm actually finding some enjoyment out of the entire Matt Hardy, Ethan Page stuff, and you'll find that I saw a lot of people kind of complaining about this. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. Why did Matt Hardy just come out and interrupt? And I thought, actually, I've been watching Dark recently. This does make perfect sense. But I recognize that if you don't watch those, because obviously 1/10 of the audience watches that stuff, then
I do not.
This made probably no sense. But I liked it, and I thought Stokely was funny as hell.
It didn't even matter to me that it didn't make sense. I still thought it was funny. Like,
yeah, I mean, because this requires this is one of those like deep AEW cuts because you had to have watched. First, you have to watch Rampage to know that.
Don't watch that.
Yeah, you need to watch Rampage to know that Matt Hardy lost to Ethan Page and therefore is now owned by the firm alongside Private Party. And now
see, I did know that because they mentioned it on commentary.
Yes. And then you have to know that on Dark and Elevation, there's actually been a lot of development there of Matt Hardy, the Twist of Fate's now banned, and all of his earnings and winnings have to now go to the firm. All of that's been happening and been laid out
what
kind
the heck,
of perfectly.
Big money.
And it's basically been Matt Hardy being treated the way he treated everybody in the Hardy family office. So it all like actually kind of makes sense, and it's been fun stuff. But I recognize if you don't watch any of that, this didn't make any sense to you. So hopefully I gave you a little, the Day After Dynamite viewers, I hope you got something out of that.
Yeah. I mean, you gave something to me out of that because I don't, I honestly miss the main event of Dynamite a lot because I go to bed really early. I get up at 4:45 every morning. So.
Yeah, that's how I can guarantee. See, if I text Cher late, and I know I'm not going to get a text till I wake up the next morning, and it'll say 3 hours ago that I was texted. That's how our conversations can sometimes go.
I am an old woman. That's to be fair though, as you know, when we were in Newark, I didn't go to bed till 4 a.m.
No, you didn't. I went to bed before you, and I went to bed at 3 a.m. So.
Yes. And then you were up in the morning, like bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, up going around, and I'm dragging myself out of bed at 11.
Yep. So the next thing we saw was Anna Jay taking on Willow Nightingale. Willow was very, very over. That's the most I can really say about this match was that Willow was very over. She got a big pop when her music hit. Crowd was chanting, "Let's go, Willow!" She never lost them throughout the match, and I thought that was great stuff. Have I really gone robotic again? Because that's what they're saying. You have to tell me.
It just happened.
Fine, but the chat got it before you did.
Yeah, well. Hello. Now we have Miss Elizabeth, and next to Miss Elizabeth is Lita. I'm just showing off my wrestlers every time.
That's so great. Sorry, it's frustrating, but we're almost done with the show anyway. So this saw the return of Ruby Soho. That my scoop meter went off the moment we reported that story, and I was like, maybe she's not going to be backstage. As soon as Ty Conti, when she was next to Anna Jay, I went,
"You're robot again."
Am I really that quick?
Yep.
I might have to just end the show. I can't.
Now we have the New Day cereal box version, and next to them is another China. I don't really have much else. I don't know what to tell you guys.
Yeah.
You're good.
I hope I am this time. I've got literally
just talk
everything
really quickly.
I have literally everything closed out. I don't know what else to do here.
To be fair, we can understand you when you go robot. It's just very, very fast.
I know. Okay, so maybe if I talk slowly, it'll just capture everything. Ruby Soho returned, and she attacked Ty Conti.
She looked great.
She looked great. She did.
I saw people pointing out that it seems that she had to have surgery on her broken nose.
I feel like
someone
that's well known. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, as someone who's broken her nose 3 times and has a deviated septum, very smart of her to have surgery, because I needed surgery years ago and I haven't had it. And anytime I get sick, I just can't breathe. So very smart of her to go ahead and have it done. She looked great.
She did.
I love Ruby.
Yeah, and I'm so glad she's back. And hey, like, Ruby and Saraya in the same environment is actually kind of cool. And I'm thinking about the possibilities there.
They're sharing the ratings in the chat.
Oh, cool. And I figured they would. Thank you. Ooh, that 18-49 is real bad. So we'll talk about that in a sec. So finally, the main event. The third one. Death Triangle. Going up against the Elite. Part 3. I loved this, but I also loved the last one, and I also loved the first one. Those are matches for me. And I have been saying that what I loved about the last one was that you obviously... that too. But having 7 matches, the obvious concern there with 7 matches is how the hell do you differentiate either of these two? And I love that even on the second one was nothing like the first. Because on the second one, we immediately got to the fact that the Elite worked heels and worked a very different match than they worked the first time around. Very different story throughout. It was just different. And then we get to this third one, And in the third match, they jump-started it on the ramp. It was just very different. So, yeah, I had to say something to somebody else in the room. So that was intentional.
I was like,
So hold on 2 seconds. Sorry, guys. It's in my hoodie right there. Thank you.
You're fine.
So the oh, sorry, guys. You're right. Actually, I'm going to save that for last because it was my favorite thing. But
Me too.
But so we're talking about the this match was very different, and it told a very different story. And there's a story being told throughout. And for the criticism that people want to levy at this, which is that, oh, it's just matches, there's no story. The story is happening in the matches. The story is that we start with the story of the hammer. Of course, that Pac has been wanting to use his hammer throughout. That's how he defeated Orange Cassidy. That's something that's worked for him. So, sorry, in case anybody's wondering what's going on, I'm sorry. My wife is on the hunt for the keys and to leave right now and doesn't know where they are. And it just occurred to me that they're in the car. So, so I literally just had to yell up to her that they're in the car.
Oh, well.
But, so either way, the story throughout, of course, that Pac has been using his hammer. It's been successful for him. He's been trying to get Rey Fenix to use it. Rey Fenix wouldn't. But at All Out, at Full Gear, Rey Fenix had he had no choice. He was in a space where he's about to get hit with a one-winged angel, and he had the hammer. In a moment of desperation, he used it, but he wasn't proud of it, and he apologized to Kenny for it. But now, all of a sudden, man in the middle, because we know Pac's the heel, we know Rey Fenix is the babyface. Penta sees this as a license, right? Because Penta's suddenly like, well, if we're using hammers, I'm going to bring my own hammer to the ring. And Rey Fenix is still like, no, that's not how we win. And he's still trying to keep Pac from executing this way. Rey Fenix still feels like we can win the right way. And meanwhile, you have the Elite who came in cocky that first match. They were playing to the fans. I
was shocked when they lost.
They lost,
shocked.
Right? But again, they got outdone and things didn't work out. So they tried to play it Death Triangle's way the second time around.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out that way because Death Triangle was again one step ahead. This time around, again, it almost seemed like Death Triangle had their number. And again, the action in this match, the action is something that we can always talk about as a good thing because the action just continues to move and it's always exciting. Mm-hmm. It's always fun. But I like that, again, it hasn't been the same. They've had so many creative ways of getting into the offense that we know Death Triangle to pull off, or that we know the Young Bucks to pull off all of it. I think the Bucks are just some of the most exciting television you can have on. This was all great stuff. I thought it was telling a great story. And the finish with Pac going for the Black Arrow and Matt Jackson getting his knees up when Death Triangle was trying to hold back Kenny and Nick. That ended up being their downfall because of the fact that they were so distracted with them that when Matt rolls up Pac for the victory, he does get the 1, 2, 3. I thought that was a great finish. This was fun. I had so much fun with this. I mean, go argue with your mom if this isn't your type of pro wrestling because you're not going to convince me. This is my type of pro wrestling. It has story, it has action, it has drama. I have no complaints about any of this. This is fun. This was great. And Absolutely. It was very different. And now we get a week off. Now my question is, what do we do next time around? How do we tell this differently 4 more times?
Yeah. I mean, Because it's gonna go all 7.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, if it doesn't, I'll be shocked. I mean, that's a lot. That's a lot of matches to have to make them all different. Now, do I think that these 6 guys can do it? Absolutely. But it's hard to make it different enough that people are going to be interested every time, because there are people who will complain.
Well, I thought about it.
I'm good with watching it because I think that it's great.
I thought about it, and I thought about some of the ways they can differentiate them, and I thought about some of the things that the Young Bucks have done excitingly that were very different. Like, I think about the Young Bucks versus Butcher and the Blade, where they brawled around Daly's place, and it was that Falls Count Anywhere match. That was great stuff. You could revisit something like that. I saw people bring up cage match. Don't do a cage match just because we've seen the Bucks versus Lucha Bros in a cage match, and we've seen multiple cage matches this year. Mm-hmm. I don't need another cage match. Ladder, maybe, but even then, AEW's done 2 ladder matches already this year. I don't know, but there's definitely different ways you can go with you can go about this, and you can do it.
I agree, and I think that it's going to be really good. So I actually missed them come out at Full Gear. I was out in the lobby talking to my friend Frankie, who you got to meet, because I never get to see him.
Right.
He's always in the office. So I was actually out there talking to him, and as they were like playing the video package beforehand, we were like, how funny would it be if they came out to Carry On My Wayward Son? And then it hit, and I was like, I am so white right now. I am.
No, I mean, I'll tell you,
so excited.
So I turned to Liam from Comic Book. He was sitting right behind me, and I turned to him and I was like, I think they're coming out to Carry On My Wayward Son. And he was like, oh, I thought they dropped the Wayward Son's trademark. And I said, yeah, I don't think that matters. I think they got the song. They're doing something special with this entrance. Like, you could see them setting it up as not a normal entrance.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think they got the song. And like, I saw somebody on Twitter today call the song Old, White, and Lame. And it's all of those things. But it is also, you have to look at the fact that...
It's also very well known. Wild Thing is also old, white, and lame.
This is what I was going to say. I think people underestimate the power, the true power in recognizable songs for entrance themes.
They do. They do.
Guys, if a wrestler got... What's the song I can think of? You Got It. As in The Right Stuff by the New Kids on the Block. If a wrestler pulled off that song, he'd be the toughest guy on the planet. If he pulled off that song, at a first glance, it'd be lame. But the first time you hear a crowd go, oh, 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 yeah, you know that shit's over, right? Like, that to me is...
It's like Jungle Boy's theme. We ain't going around singing that when it's not at a wrestling show. I mean, wrestling songs, Judas is a terrible song. People are still going to sing Judas.
I know, you're on camera doing it at Full Gear 2021.
I can't even say that I was drunk because I don't drink.
Nope, you were just right there, loud as can be, Judas in your mind.
When you're in the moment, it's just fun. Like, I have not sang it since then. But they try to get me every time.
I know, they tried to get me. I was just watching Forbidden Door the other day. You can see, they zoomed right into me. And I'm like, nope, you're not catching me singing Judas.
I said this when NXT and WWE started changing a bunch of people's themes. When they took away the UE theme and gave Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly both not good, very generic songs. And I was trying to explain to people, everybody's, licensing, blah, 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 blah. I don't care. That's not the point of what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you have 87 people with songs that all sound similar, you don't even know who's coming out. Mm-hmm. You don't even know who it is. And it was kind of that way at Royal Rumble this year. Royal Rumble. Music would hit, and people are like, who?
Royal Rumble was the biggest example to me that wrestling themes today, specifically out of WWE, are not recognizable. And
Mikey Ruckus is great.
Yes.
And Mikey does great themes. But some songs like that, the majority of people in that arena are gonna know at least the chorus. to carry to the song, like not everything has to be a super popular song. I guarantee you most of these people didn't know the words to Wild Thing before Mox started coming out to it.
I do want a wrestler, by the way, to use the right stuff at some point. And just have a whole crowd singing it. But yeah, I like.
But they have to come out and do the dance. They have to do the.
So finally, got to talk about Jade Cargill. That attire.
That was amazing.
Magic.
I almost want to do an episode on Strong Style just on that.
Uh-huh.
I talked about her gear from Full Gear on the episode that just debuted today. And about how she learned that she can't just wear a leotard. She learned it the hard way, but that's okay. But I said on there, everything is going to look amazing on Jade because Jade is gorgeous. Jade has an amazing body. Like, she's beautiful in every aspect. But a lot of times, like, the stuff that she wears backstage and, like, the money thing, like, it doesn't really matter. But a lot of times with her gear, because she's built so different than most of these women, doesn't work as well for her in the ring. And I said that I feel like that's maybe, since she's new, I said most people when they first start wrestling, they have a learning curve with their gear on what's going to work for them because they're not immediately on TV. And she has been. And I said she's someone that needs to talk to like Charlotte Flair, who has the broader shoulders and everything of what gear is going to work for my body. Because no matter what she wears, she's going to look amazing. Like, she could come out there in a freaking potato sack and she's going to look amazing. But that last night, oh my God.
Shout out Sandra Gray.
Yes,
she
Sandra.
outdid herself on this one.
Whew. Amazing.
Amazing stuff.
So good. Oh my God.
You guys can see it in the thumbnail of this episode. It appears that she's practically wearing nothing but dollar bills. It's definitely there's some deceit going on there, and that's okay because she's Jade Cargill. She can pull that off.
Could Jade trademark Strong Style? Well, I hope not, since that's the name of my show. Freaking hope she doesn't.
Caden notes, like Caden said, Mox Page Texas Deathmatch at Winter. I don't know. Maybe. And yeah, so Jade called out the fact that this past weekend, some photos were posted to Instagram that included Kiera Hogan, who was just kicked out of the baddies. And she basically railed into the remaining baddies and, told them that she decides what goes on. And if y'all don't like it, y'all can, get out of here. And they seem to not be okay with a lot of what she was saying there. And it dawned on me what's occurring here. And I think we might be approaching the end of Jade's title reign. I don't know who's going to be the one to beat her, but I'm starting to see a little bit of a story being told, and maybe I'm wrong. A lot of people were like, why did they kick out Kiera Hogan? That didn't make any sense to me. It seems like Jade is reaching this point of feeling almost aggressively cocky.
Yes.
To the point of where anybody that doesn't fall in line, she's kicking them to the curb.
Mm-hmm.
Until she reaches a point where she has no one left. And once she has no one left, she has no one to help her retain her title because she's gotten too in over her head at that point. And I think that's the story that they're kind of telling here. And I think it'll kind of be a one by one kind of thing of like...
Yes, it's very subtle.
Yeah, like, okay, Kiera Hogan's gone now. And Kiera Hogan, like, people were like, is she leaving the company? Nope, she wrestled last night on Elevation. She's still there. And so I think next, again, you find yourself trashing Red Velvet next. Red Velvet makes her way out. Layla, same thing. She kind of makes her way out, and then eventually she's left with nobody. She's got rid of Mark Sterling. She got rid of Stokely. There's nobody left. She's on her own, and on her own, she's defeated in a way where she doesn't have the backup anymore.
And honestly, I think it's time for that, because I love Jade. I'm always excited to see Jade, but I know that there's a lot of people who are like almost uninterested in even watching her matches, because it's like, okay, well, Jade's going to win.
Yeah, I think
so,
we have to.
And you don't want to get to that point.
Yep, we got to do something now. And I don't know who it's going to be. I know a lot of people now have convinced themselves that it's Mercedes, because she showed up last night at the Celtics game at the Boston TD Garden, the very arena at which Survivor Series was at. And it's like, why would you be here, not there? I don't know. Like I said, I was about a month ago 90% confident Sasha was returning to WWE. That is now way reduced down to like 30. But my Sasha to AEW went from maybe a 5% to 6, maybe 7. But I don't know what's happening as far as she's concerned. That would be very cool. Don't get me wrong. If she's the one that Bow Wow brings in, that'd be the coolest thing on earth. I don't know that it's that. But who the hell knows? Let's talk about the ratings, shall we? Your favorite thing on earth. Not a term that Cher Delaware has muted on social media. So the rating is in. Dynamite did 870,000, which is hella down. It's 1% down since last week. But the 18 to 49, that one is wildly down. That one is down 18% from last week. That's a 0.26 they did. And I am now very, very curious to see the quarters, because I don't know anything about that rating and how that did. I know that. Oh yeah, and then as far as the question of where did it finish, I can look that up right now.
While Will is looking that up, I saw someone say, "Aren't Sasha and Bow Wow cousins?" She's cousins with Snoop Dogg, a different dog reference.
Yes, although Bow Wow was tied to Snoop Dogg at one point, and
everybody's tied together in fame,
hip hop. But let's see. So, no Showbuzz Daily rankings out yet. So,
yeah, Bow Wow considers Snoop an uncle, but that's just.
But yeah, there's no actual relation there.
My kids consider Sean their uncle, so.
So, either way, that's it for Day After Dynamite. I know. I'm pretty sure the anti-elite people probably find some vindication in all of this, because they're going to see this as a proof that they are ratings death. Because that's the thing, is the trios main events haven't done well. That's just a fact. But also, guys, no main events have done well, because if you have to say that, then you have to look at, say, Jey Uso versus Kevin Owens and say, well, their ratings death, because that was the lowest rated segment on Raw this week. And I think
some of us are just old and tired. We go to bed before the show's over.
I think there's a little bit more to that story. So, but again, they'll see it as a victory, and I know they'll see it as a victory, and that's okay. Either way, folks, jump on over to FightfulSelect.com, because I'm hella late. Reg and Phil are waiting on me right now. And
blame me. Just tell me it's my fault.
Blame Cher Delaware. But also, don't forget to check out Cher Delaware, because she's over on Fightful Overbooked, talking strong style, but specifically about the style of professional wrestlers. She's our fashionable friend over here, Cher Delaware.
Yeah, look at this outfit. Look at this. I got my Cher Delaware beanie that Frankie had made for me, and then I've just got Nike.
Yeah, look at that. All right. And as Redmond said, Cher, old, tired, and works with children.
That's me. Old, tired, and lives with children.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're not old. You're not old at all.
I feel very old. Each child has aged me 10 years. I had cancer, Will Washington. That aged me as well.
By the way, that's been my mark out moment this week, is when you texted me just the words cancer free with exclamation points. I basically jumped out of my seat. I was so excited. I was so happy.
I was too.
Yes. Very happy to hear that.
Very glad.
So celebrate Cher Delaware, who is now cancer-free, and come back with us next week. I believe Andrew Zarian's our guest next week here on Day After Dynamite. So either way, be a part of that. Be here. For...
My fashionable male counterpart, Andrew Zarian.
Yes. So thanks for being with us, and we will see you next time. Have a great day. And again, go on over, if you're watching right now, FightfulSelect.com. Peace.